There are 36 governor's races up for grabs in the 2026 midterm elections, and right now there are 18 Republicans and 18 Democrats representing all of them, a complete even split. Hello and welcome to today's video. What I want to do for this video is I want to look at 5 governor's races that I think are potential pickups for the Republicans. And I am going to be doing a part 2 for this video as well for the Democrats, so make sure you stay tuned for that as well. Getting into the video, the first governor's race I'm watching that I think could be a potential pickup for the Republicans is the state of Kansas. And I think Kansas, out of all the governor's races in the country, I think this one is the most likely to flip at this time. Kansas has a Democratic governor right now. This is Democratic Governor Laura Kelly, and she is currently serving her second term as governor of Kansas, and she is term limited per Kansas's constitution and cannot seek a third consecutive term. So this will be an open race. The Democrats right now, one candidate, a state senator, Cindy Hochler, has expressed interest in running. But other than that, it's not really looking great for the Democrats in terms of who could run. There are the Lieutenant Governor of Kansas, David Toland. He could run, maybe make it a close race. But it's not going to be Laura Kelly, who narrowly won the last few times. On the Republican side of things, there is the Secretary of State, Scott Schwab. He has announced he is running for this race. The former Governor, Jeff Collier, has publicly expressed interest. Vicki Schmidt, Kansas's insurance commissioner, has expressed interest. There's also some other potential candidates like Chris Kobach, the current Attorney General and former candidate for governor and Senate, Ty Masterson, Philip Sarnecki as well. And right now on the predictions for it, 270 to win has it as a toss-up. Cook Political Report actually has it as a lean Republican, which would be a flip to the Republicans. Just looking briefly back, in 2022 when this race was re-elected, Governor Kelly won re-election. She won by 2.2% over her Republican challenger. Now looking at 2018, the first time she won, she was able to win over Chris Kobach by 5 points. So of all the governor's races, I think Kansas is the potential to be the most likely to flip to the Republicans, and I think under 5% is conceivable, but I think that is the first Republican flip to watch for. The second most likely Republican flip on the 2026 governor's map, for me, is the state of Arizona. Arizona, this is obviously a very important swing state at the presidential level. At the governor level, it's currently represented by Democratic incumbent Governor Katie Hobbs. She's serving her first term, so she's eligible to run for a second term. She has not yet officially stated if she will do so, but she has expressed interest in running for this position. And she'll be likely facing off against a bunch of potential Republicans. Andy Biggs, the representative from Arizona's 5th Congressional District, is the only Republican who is formally declared. There are a lot of other candidates who have filed paperwork, including Christopher Ames, Christian Gray, Scott Neely, George Nicholson. There are a bunch of candidates who have publicly expressed interest, including Jason Beck, Tom Hatton, Karen Taylor Robson, who President-elect Trump at the time, now President Trump, did say he would endorse her if she ran for the race back in December, and Kimberly Yee, Arizona State Treasurer. So on the Republican side of things, there's going to be no shortage of people wanting to run for this race, and this is going to be a very, very close race when all things come down to it. There is some Republican primary polling as well, just to give you a brief idea of where things stand. There's not any general election polling as of yet, but 270 to win and Cook Political Report both have it listed as a toss-up, and I do agree on this rating. I do think Arizona is going to be one of the closest governor's races in the entire country in 2026, and I think as a Republican flip, it is certainly possible. I would call it 50-50, a jump ball at this time. So Kansas and Arizona are 2 governor's races that I think are both going to be close, but I'm honestly kind of betting on flipping to the Republicans in 2026. 3 through 5 are some governor's races that could potentially flip, but I'm not exactly as sure of. Kansas, I'm pretty sure will flip. Arizona, it's kind of 50-50, but I think the Republicans could win it. Number 3, I think it's in play for the Republicans, but I would not have them winning it in my prediction as of today, and that is the state of Michigan. Michigan is going to be an open race in 2026 due to the fact that Governor Gretchen Whitmer is term limited per Michigan's constitution. She cannot serve a third consecutive term. And right now, the declared candidate on the Democratic side is Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan Secretary of State. She is officially declared for this race. A lot of other potential Democratic candidates include Pete Buttigieg, Garland Gilchrist, the Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, Mallory McMorrow, a state senator, and Chris Swanson, a Genesee County sheriff, as well as Mark Hackel and Joe Tate, potential candidates as well. That's the Democratic side. On the Republican side, Eric Nesbitt has declared he is the minority leader of the Michigan Senate from 2023 and on. Formed an exploratory committee is Mike Cox, a former Michigan Attorney General and candidate for governor. Also expressing interest is Tudor Dixon, who ran for governor in 2022, Perry Johnson, who ran for president very briefly in 2024, and Jonathan Lindsley, a state senator from the 17th district as well. There are lots of other potential candidates as well. Chief among them, I would say, is John James, the congressman who lost two very close Senate races in 2018 and 2020. Michigan, I think, is going to be very, very close. There is also a wild card here, which is the mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan, declaring an independent bid for governor of Michigan. It's very interesting to see. I don't think running as independent, I do not believe he'll be able to win this race, but I do believe he'll be able to draw significant support, likely 5 to 10%, somewhere in that range. And if he does do so, it'll be very interesting to see which party he pulls support from more, the Republicans or the Democrats. So that's going to be something very interesting to watch for as well. As for where Michigan stands in my own prediction right now, it in the video is the topic of could Republicans flip Michigan? In my own personal rankings, I would have Michigan starting out as tilt Democrat, but it is certainly conceivable where I could see the Republicans winning the state of Michigan. This would put Republicans at 21 governor's seats, Democrats down to 15. And number 4 on my list, and this was where I'm starting to reach a little bit on ones I think Republicans could win. There are a lot of Democratic governors that I just don't think are going to lose in 2026, including the state of Michigan. I think it'll be close, but I think the Democrats are probably slightly favored there. Number 4, I have the state of Wisconsin. This is Democratic incumbent governor Tony Evers. And this one's a really fascinating one because he survived a very close election back in 2022. Wisconsin does not have a third-term constitutional rule, so Tony Evers can run for a third term if he does want to. He has publicly expressed interest, but he has not announced yet. He is making a decision expected around the middle of 2025. If he does not run, there's also David Crowley, a Milwaukee County executive. Cavalier Johnson, the mayor of Milwaukee, is another potential candidate. Other potential candidates include Mandela Barnes, the former lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, who ran for Senate in 2022 and lost a close race to Ron Johnson. He is another potential candidate along with many others. On the Republican side of things, for Wisconsin, there's Josh Homan, a Washington County executive, Patrick Testin, a state senator and candidate for lieutenant governor in 2022, U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany of the 7th District. His decision is expected to be around April 1st, so April Fools. He's been long rumored to be a top Republican candidate in the state of Wisconsin. I would bet that he probably would run if Tony Evers was not running for re-election. Maybe that race would be seen as more winnable for the Republicans and he would jump in. I'm not sure if he will run against Evers, though. Other potential candidates include Eric Hovde, who just lost a very close Senate race in 2024 against Tammy Baldwin, Rebecca Kleefisch, the former lieutenant governor with Governor Scott Walker and candidate for governor in 2022. She could run for this race, as well as Brian Steele, U.S. Representative from Wisconsin's 1st District. This one is listed as a toss-up between 270 to win in the Cook Political Report. This is going to be one of the closest races in the entire country. I have no doubt about it. And my first initial rating and gut instinct for Michigan has it as either a tilt Democratic state or a lean Democratic state for Tony Evers, I think depending on which candidates run. But as the topic of the video today is states that Republicans could win, I think Wisconsin, Michigan would have to be included in this list, though in my actual rankings, I would definitely have them more as toss-ups for the Republicans at best, but still. So those are 4 governors' races that I think Republicans at very least could potentially win. 5, it gets a little tricky because all 4 of these states I think are pretty obvious for states that could go to the Republicans. 5, it gets tricky because Pennsylvania, there's Governor Josh Shapiro, who's very popular according to a lot of polls, and a 2028 Democratic challenger for the presidency, possibly. So I don't think he's really in danger of losing in 2026. I think he's going to win probably by double digits, honestly, in his reelection bid. So I don't think he's really vulnerable of falling to the Republicans in 2026. There are a few states I do have in mind, and I'll do the honorable mentions first. First is the state of New York. This is Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul, who some polls have showed her being pretty unpopular. She could certainly be a target for the Republicans to try and take down in 2026, but still, New York is a very Democratic state, due in large part to Manhattan and surrounding boroughs of New York City. So New York will be tough for Republicans to flip, but I could see it certainly being competitive. New Mexico is another state that on the presidential level is more of a likely Democratic state. So I could see that one maybe potentially being competitive, but I don't really think it's going to be Republicans within striking distance of winning. So by process of elimination, one likely Democratic or lean Democratic governorship that I could see Republicans maybe being able to make competitive and try and squeak out could be the state of Minnesota. And the real reason I have for Minnesota is A, I need a fifth one, and B, Minnesota, of all these governor's races, was the closest at the presidential level in 2024. Kamala Harris only won it by 4 points. So I think this would be the closest of the ones I mentioned, but I don't really think there's much of a chance of this happening. This is obviously Governor Tim Walz, who was the, of course, vice presidential nominee of Kamala Harris in 2024. He's eligible to run for a third term if he wants to, but he has not yet announced if he will. He's going to do that by summer of 2025. If not, the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, is viewed as a potential candidate as well. On the Republican side of things, there hasn't been too much movement on this race. One person, Phil Parrish, a teacher and perennial candidate, has filed paperwork. Royce White, he's expressed interest. He was the Senate nominee in 2024. Scott Jensen, a former state senator and nominee for governor in 2022, is a potential candidate, as well as Kendall Qualls and Pete Stauber. The Republicans don't really have a strong contender or bench in Minnesota for 2026, so this race I really do not count as being very competitive, but I do think at least of the remaining seats, like New Mexico and Pennsylvania and maybe Maine, I think Minnesota would be the likeliest out of all of them to go red, but in 2026, what's supposed to be a strong Democratic midterm year, I don't think it actually would. In Maine, actually, I didn't talk about. Really, it came down to Minnesota and Maine for me for which one I was going to include, but I don't think I don't really see Maine electing a Republican governor this time around. I think to elect a Republican governor in Maine, you need a really strong Republican midterm environment, and I don't think that's going to happen in 2026, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see. So these are 5 governor's races that I think Republicans are probably their top targets and could conceivably make competitive and maybe even flip in 2026. Of these, I would say Kansas is the most likely, Arizona is the second most likely, and then from here on, Wisconsin, Michigan. I would say probably I would start with Michigan due to the fact that it will be an open race, and Tony Evers in Wisconsin can run for a third term, and he already won a very close race in 2022. So maybe this could be a sign that he'll hold on again. But in a very great night for the Republicans, I could see Wisconsin going red as well. Minnesota, it's the 5th one, but I really can't see it being all that competitive. I think a lean Democrat would probably be like the ceiling for the Republicans there. But at very least, I could see it becoming maybe competitive if Republicans can find a good candidate. If not, the state of Maine maybe comes back into the conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's very interesting. It's kind of scenario planning for 2026. If you did enjoy it, I'm going to be doing another one for the Democrats as well. So I hope you come back for that video as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day. So I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.